National University Sudan, Faculty of Administrative Science. Hello everyone and welcome back to our microeconomics course. I hope you are doing well. In today's lecture, we are going to explore one of the most important concepts in the theory of the consumer, how economists derive the demand curve using indifference curve analysis. You already know that consumers make choices based on their preferences and their limited income. But have you ever wondered why the demand curve slopes downward? Today, we will answer that question step by step. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to explain what is the price consumption curve, PCC, is, how it is constructed, and how it leads us to the individual demand curve. So let us get started. The price consumption curve. Let us begin with the price consumption curve, commonly called the PCC. The PCC is simply a curve that shows how a consumer best choice changes when the price of one good changes, while income preferences and the price of other goods remain constant. Think about it in this way. Imagine you buy cheese and biscuits every week. If the price of cheese suddenly decreases, but your income stays the same, would you buy the same amount of cheese? Probably not. Most people would buy more cheese because it has become relatively cheaper. The PCC captures these different purchasing decisions and connects them into one curve. How the PCC is constructed. Now let us see how we construct the PCC. First, assume the consumer has a fixed income. Second, the price of biscuits remains constant. Third, only the price of cheese changes. Every time the price changes, the budget line rotates, meaning that it changes its place. The consumer then chooses the combination of goods that gives the highest possible satisfaction. And this occurs when the budget line is tangent to the highest attainable indifference curve. Let me show you how the budget line can rotate like this. This is, let us say, this is the cheese and this is the biscuit. And this is our budget line. The budget line rotates like this. It changes one place for one of the two goods and remain constant or fixed at the other one. So the consumer then chooses the combination of goods that gives the highest possible satisfaction. And this occurs when the budget line is tangent to the highest attainable indifference curve. What do we mean by highest attainable? Just let me take the pen again and do it like this. Okay, let me go back. Okay, no problem. So each tangency represents a new consumer equilibrium. When we connect all these equilibrium points together, we obtain the price consumption curve. Notice that nothing can change. Notice that nothing changes except the price of one commodity. This is very important because it allows us to isolate the effect of the price of consumer choice. So what is the importance of the PCC? Now you may ask, why do economists spend so much time studying the PCC? There are several reasons. First, it helps us understand how consumers react to price change. How consumers react to price change. Second, it illustrates both the substitution effect and the income effect, which explain why consumption changes after a price change. Third, it provides a foundation for driving the individual demand curve. In other words, without understanding the PCC, it becomes difficult to understand where the demand curve comes from. Okay, from the PCC to the demand curve. Now let us connect these ideas. In the graph, the consumer spends a fixed income of $25 on cheese and biscuits. The price of biscuits remains constant, while the price of cheese changes whenever, like this, let me take the pen, like this. Let us say this is the biscuit, and this is the cheese, and this is our demand, our budget line, where the price of cheese remain constant and the price of cheese, the biscuits remain constant, the price of cheese change, so the amounts we purchase from the cheese change. The price of biscuits remains constant while the price of cheese changes. Whenever cheese becomes more cheaper, the budget line rotates outward, allowing if the income or the price becomes more cheaper, we expect that we buy more from the cheese. And we buy the same amount, for example, from the biscuits. Whenever cheese becomes cheaper, the budget line rotates outward, allowing the consumer to purchase more cheese. The consumer reaches a new equilibrium each time. If we join these equilibrium points, we obtain the price consumption curve. Now here's the key idea. Each equilibrium point tells us two things: the price of cheese and the quantity of cheese purchased. If we transfer these price and quantity combinations to another graph with price on the vertical axis and quantity on the horizontal axis, we obtain the individual demand curve for cheese. So, if we transfer these price and quantity combinations to another graph with price on the vertical axis and the quantity on horizontal axis, we obtain the individual demand curve. So the demand curve is not drawn randomly. It is derived directly from the consumer's equilibrium choices. Understanding the demand curve. Let us focus on the lower graph here. Let us focus on the lower graph. Okay, notice that when the price of cheese falls down, when the price of cheese falls from 4 to 2 to 1, the quantity demanded increases from 2 to 7 to 11, from 2 to 7 to 11. This gives us a downward sloping demand curve. In the top line, we have the price consumption curve, where we have the budget line 1 and the blue A is the indifference curve and A is a tangent point, the tangent point. Then we have the budget line 2, where the cheese servings prices are get lower, so the quantities increases, so the budget line rotates to budget line 2, And we have another tangency between the indifference curve and the budget line at point P. Then we have the budget line 3, and the budget line is rotating from budget line 2 because of the lower prices of cheese services. And we have another or a new tangency point at point C. Then we connect the 3 points, the tangency points, and we get the price consumption curve. Then we prove that the demand curve is not drawn randomly. It is derived directly from the consumer's equilibrium choices. Let us focus on this lower graph. As I told you, notice that when the price of cheese falls from 4 to 2 to 1, the quantity demanded increases from 2 to 7 to 11. This gave us a downward sloping demand curve, and this is exactly what the law of demand tells us. Consumers generally buy more of good when its price falls and less when its price rises, assuming other factors remain unchanged. Whenever you see a downward sloping demand curve, remember that it reflects the rational decisions consumers make to maximize their satisfaction. I already explained this. The lower panel of the diagram illustrates the individual demand curve derived from the price consumption curve, unlike the upper panel, which shows the consumer's choice between cheese and biscuits. The lower panel focuses only on the relationship between the price of cheese and the quantity of cheese demanded. The price of biscuits is assumed to remain constant throughout the analysis. Each equilibrium point on the price consumption curve provides a corresponding price quantity combination for cheese. By transferring these combinations to the lower graph with the price of cheese on the vertical axis and the quantity of cheese on the horizontal axis, the individual demand curve is obtained. The resulting demand curve slopes downward from left to right, indicating the inverse relationship between the price of cheese and the quantity demanded in accordance with the law of demand. Okay, we have practice questions. Let me revise these questions with you. What does the price consumption curve show? The correct answer is number B. It shows how consumer equilibrium changes when the price of one good changes while income and the price of the other good remains constant. Please try to solve all these questions in order to strengthen the main ideas presented in this lecture. Before we finish, let me review the key ideas. The price consumption curve shows how consumer equilibrium changes as the price of one commodity changes. During this analysis, income preferences and the price of other goods remain constant, and each equilibrium point represents a consumer best possible choice. So these equilibrium points provide the price and quantity combinations needed to drive the individual demand curve. Finally, the demand curve slopes downward because consumers buy more when the prices fall and less when prices rise. That brings us to the end of today's lecture. I encourage you to review the graphs carefully because understanding the diagrams is not just as important as understanding the theory. It's just as important as understanding the theory. Also try answering the multiple choice questions again without looking at the answers. This is an excellent way to prepare for your examinations. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you in our next lecture. Have a wonderful day and happy studying.